And welcome to part 3. This is going to be 4 parts, so there's one after this. I forgot to mention it, but if you go back into some of my earlier videos, there's a message stating that I had lost my hard drive and lost this footage. And it turns out I was very wrong. I just forgot to actually mention it on here. What happened was I had to upgrade my computer. The connection between my hard drive and motherboard died for whatever reason. So, thankfully everything was able to be recovered, and I got to keep all my old files. So, that was lucky. So here I am sewing the ear on. You'll kind of see what I did with that ear when I do it to the next ear. But I basically sewed the pink part of the ear to the purple part of the ear, the top there, and then rolled it over onto itself and glued it. And then I trimmed the tip. Anyway, by sewing each of the sides on separately, it kind of keeps them sticking out. Even if they lay over, it doesn't look as bad as if I had just sewed it all down to one line. They take up their own little individual space there. So it helps it stick out a little bit even though there's nothing inside to support it. Incidentally, in the next version of jhumwox, I intend to use some wire, the same kind of wire that I used in his hands, to give him posable ears. We'll see how that goes. I don't want to make any promises, so maybe I won't say too much more about later versions of the puppet yet. Anyway, that pen, that's the one that I was talking about. You can see it where I added the detail on like the lighter pinks and purples. But later you'll see me add some detail under his eyes. And that one doesn't show up so much. There we are, gluing the seam shut so that you don't have to see the thread. The thread I'm using is white and brown thread. The brown just because I didn't have purple and it was less likely to show up on camera. There, see, that's what I'm talking about. Sew up the top of the ear, then roll it over on itself and glue it. That super glue sitting there, I don't believe I used that. I didn't really have to. I thought I bought it just because I thought I might need it, and it turns out that I was wrong. So setting the jar on top of it like that helped hold it down. I had to do it again because it didn't hold the first time. The funny thing about the eyes is, before I had bought 2 sets of those felt pads, and one was felt pads, the other one wasn't actually a felt pad, it was a rubber pad made more for like your kitchen appliances and things like that. And they didn't want to stick down well enough, so if you watch the earlier versions you'll see the eyes have bigger pupils in them. But now they have smaller ones, which actually turned out to be green felt pads that I just markered in black. Rings around the eyes. Those are meant to add support and hold them down and hide the little tab things. Although next time I think I'll just clip those tab things off and sand them down. Gluing on the eyelids. And I wasn't sure tacky glue would work in this situation because I'm gluing it onto such a smooth surface, but it's held so far. I think it took like 3 days just to get the paint on the inside of the eyes to dry. It was ridiculous. There we go, gluing around, trying to keep those eyelids down. And you really got to take your time. Like I said before, this is sped up, so you don't really see the time I'm taking to do it. But there's no way this would only be 4 videos if I showed you how long it actually took. I think I recorded roughly 6 full tapes. Remember, this is my old camera that I recorded these with, so it was a DV tape camera. I recorded 6 full tapes. Each one is about an hour long. Of video while I was making this, so that's about 6 hours of total time. So you can appreciate how much I have to edit this down and what I have to trim out just to make it watchable. Initially, I wanted to give him a different nose. You saw that on the original sketch of the puppet. I wanted to give him little nostrils and stuff, and then when I got the stripe on there, and the stripe you're seeing right now is just a support stripe because his face was uneven. So in order to make his broad, normal nose stripe, I had to add another smaller stripe in there. Yeah, I wanted another nose, and that just didn't look right when I tried it on him. So it was kind of this weird little folded cat-like nose. It just didn't work for him, and it was going to be more trouble than it was worth. So I went ahead and nixed that and just gave him the stripe, which I think worked better as far as an alien goes. Anyway, there's the thicker nose stripe going on now, and like I tried to say earlier, but I got sidetracked. When you're pressing these on, you really have to hold them down for a while. I had to hold and pad down the eyelids, for instance, for several minutes. It's just time-lapsed here, so it doesn't look like it took as long. The paper I cut out to make sure it would fit on the head when I was cutting his hair. And this hair is ridiculous when you try to cut it, because you are bound to cut off little pieces of the hair. And all the little hairs on there that'll come loose. So watch what happens as soon as I pick this up. It just goes everywhere. It gets on your clothes, it gets on the floor, it gets on the desk, it gets on the puppet. Lint rollers are your best friend. I went ahead and just used some clear packing tape and folded it over on itself and just kind of patted everything with it. And I sewed that on with the white thread I was talking about earlier. And that way there's a little bit of the thread that you can see in the puppet, but you probably don't even notice it because it's just the same color as the hair. So that was good. It would have been more difficult if I'd given him a crazier color hair, but that was actually all that I could find when I was buying the materials for him. I went everywhere in search of some kind of quality furry material that I could use for hair. And the best thing I could find was that little pack of that designer fur you saw. It's just this little pad of fur. And I found some later. I found some furry fabric at another store much later, actually, just like a week or two ago today. And so I can do that for other puppets, but that is why jhumwox's hair is white, actually. I didn't have a hair color planned for him. I knew it was going to be light, but I was thinking more of a light blue, and they didn't have it. I think the white turned out really good, especially against the dark purple. So anyway, now you'll see I'm adding the glue for the rings there, as well as well, no, that's just the eyes. Now that's dried. Now I'm adding the glue for the rings. The rings were just intended as a structural bit. I couldn't think of any other way to attach the eyes on. Now that I'm a little wiser, I've got some other ideas, so hopefully that'll shine through in the next version. And it doesn't show up on film, like a lot of the stuff doesn't show up on, I say film, but it's video. It doesn't really show up on video, but I did actually turn the felt over. And anyone that knows felt knows that if you turn it over, you get a slightly different look to it. It can shine differently in the light. It may or may not appear darker. And I did that for the rings around his eyes, just for added effect. But you don't really see much of a difference when he's on screen. So didn't take much to get the back of his head stuffed. It was just a little bit of filling places in where it was still kind of baggy. That stuffing's really cheap, so you can. I had enough for jhumwox, Clyde, and I still have some left over for future puppets. So it's really worth picking up if you're going to buy something. They don't make a whole lot of different variations of it, so if you go looking for it, you're bound to find it. It's used for all kinds of things, stuffed animals. There's those details I was talking about, just a little bit of a ring under his eye, and I wanted to try to blend the black with the purple, so I added some darker purple on the inside of his lip. I'm not entirely sure how well that shows up on the video. I think it shows up alright, but it's not as realistic as I was hoping, but what are you going to do? It's marker on felt. You know, I forgot to mention that how I did the tongue. I thought I'd caught that on video, and I didn't. And there the tongue is, clearly attached to his mouth. What I did was I dampened the sponge, and then I sewed it down with some black thread. That was it. I was careful not to poke it through the other side, and so you didn't see the black on this side of it. But yeah, that's all I really did, was sewed it down with some black thread. It's all upholstery thread because that's some pretty strong stuff. So we're gonna close out now, and I'll see you in part 4. And look at that, I got some marker on me.